Welcome to Near Mint Condition, the home of collected editions. I am the Uncanny Omar, and join me today for my advanced look at the Thor by Jason Aaron Omnibus Volume 1. Let's get this started. Welcome back, everybody. Before I get started, a huge thank you to David Gabriel and the folks at Marvel for sending us an advanced copy of this omnibus. This omnibus is due out in the direct market and in the book market on April 26th, depending on where you get your books. Sometimes it'll come out on April 27th. So I should have planned this a little bit better. It is Sunday, but why didn't I do this on a Thursday, right? Thursday? I think it was because there was just so many other books, and I wanted to get closer to the release date to do this video. But here it finally is. The video so many of you have been requesting for. This is the video that has been years in the making, because long before I did this video, I was always being asked, Omar, since you got to announce so many Marvel Omnis, when is the Jason Aaron Thor Omnibus coming? And I knew a few months ahead of time when it was coming, but I couldn't say anything. And it was just one of those books that I remember when I announced the video, I said, now what are you all going to ask me for? But here it finally is. I guess you could ask for Volume 2, huh? Because that hasn't even been solicited or announced. So what we're looking at here is one of the direct market covers. Now, there's a total of 3. You have this one here. You have the one on the left-hand side there. That is the other direct market cover by Joe Quesada. And the one on the right, that's your standard edition cover by Esad Ribic. Now, the interesting thing about all 3 of these is that they all have a different spine, too. Here's what all 3 of the spines look like. So, each one of the spines are different. Now, the back of the book all looks the same. They have this frame, this grayish, bluish frame around here, the ISBN, the contents, and just pictures from, actually, let's see here. I think, no, you have an Esad Ribic. Okay, I was going to say this all looks like Russell Dauterman artwork, but you have Esad Ribic in there too, who is the other main artist. Now, under the dust jacket, they will all look the same, but here we go. So here is the direct market cover by Russell Dauterman, the spine of the book with Mjolnir down there in Volume 1, and then the back of the book is also the direct market cover by Joe Quesada. So I guess you lucked out if you have the standard edition cover, because you get all 3 of the covers, I mean, one way or another. They're all collected in the book, and we're going to be opening that up here in a second. The biggest question is that I've been getting about this is, how has this been collected previously? Well, it's been collected in trade paperbacks, and we've also had standard size hardcovers for all of those that remember that. But we also had oversized hardcovers that have been long out of print. And this collects pretty much all of these first 4 oversized hardcovers, plus an extra miniseries that has not been collected previously in oversized format. So let's get this book open, get these out of the way, check out the artwork, talk about the story, and of course we'll talk about the build here. And I may do a comparison to the art in the oversized hardcovers, but let's go ahead and get started with that part. All right. Let's get this opened. We have some gray end sheets here. This picture of Thor. By the way, I am going to steer clear of spoilers, just in case. I'm going to try to do my best talking about the stories in here without going into spoilers. So, if you want a more in-depth... Oh, here, let's go back to this really quick. But I was going to say, if you want more of my take on these stories, I've done an old reader, new reader on both the first arc and the second story arc. And I can leave those links above. But here is pretty much your credits. The writers and the artists. Pretty much it's Jason Aaron, of course, writing all of this. However, in the annuals, other people do come in and they are credited here. Like CM Punk is the writer of one of the parts of the annual. But you have the artist. I think most of us that have read Jason Aaron's Thor separate these by 2 big arcs, and the 2 big arcs are separated by 2 different artists. But as you saw there's other artists besides Esad Ribic and Russell Dauterman. Like to us, I think that have read this, we separate, okay, Esad Ribic is God of Thunder, and Russell Dauterman is Mighty Thor. And we'll talk a little bit about the differences here in a minute. But as you saw, there's also Ron Garney in there, R.M. Guerra, Butch Guice, Tim Truman, just to name a few of the artists that also step in. Like, Ron Garney's arc is pretty long, and for some reason, doesn't get the credit that is rightly due. Of course, all this, the colors are supplied by Matthew Wilson. So, we start off with this particular issue. So, Thor is renumbered. We're kicking it off with Thor, God of Thunder, issue number 1. So it takes place in the past, it takes place in the present, and it takes place in the future. So this is the big story arc that kicks off Thor by Jason Aaron. So it all is tied together by this god butcher named Gore, who's going around and killing gods, and he has his own reasons. And these three different timelines are all, like I said, tied together by Gore. Whether you have King Thor right here, many millennia from now, hanging out with his granddaughters, or you have young Thor, or Thor in present time. All of it tied together by somebody that's going around and eating or killing gods. And that's what kicks it off. And this is the type of artwork you're going to find through that big arc. Now, that big arc wraps up at about issue number 12. But it starts building on other things. Like, it starts giving you hints at the coming of other things for future Jason Aaron stories. Because he wrote this title for 7 years. That's a long time. And it's weird to say that from a guy that read comics in the 80s when writers would, I'm used to like Chris Claremont writing X-Men for 17 years. And now we say things like, oh, 7 years, that's a lifetime. It really is, writers, they get a contract for a few years, then they move on to their own projects, which is great. I respect that. But I kind of wish I missed those days. Even Bendis took around for like well over 10 years on Ultimate Spider-Man. That's unheard of these days. So it's unheard of for somebody to take this character and write him for 7 years. Now, does he relaunch him? Does he revamp the character? Absolutely not. He adds to the mythos of Thor, of Odin's son, of all the characters in Asgard. Like, I appreciate that about him, because this is a god that, we've known more about in present time, but I love the fact that he goes back to the past. It reminds me of those old Jack Kirby and Stan Lee Tales of Asgard, or even when Roy Thomas took over the book. And this scene I have to show, because this is the scene that they showed in the trailer for Love and Thunder, and taken directly from the book. That's crazy. So I hope As That Ribbit gets a little more than a thank you for the movie, but who knows. So that's the first story arc, and man, the artwork is just... I remember looking at it for the first time, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is like a beautiful child of like Frank Frazetta meets like all those heavy metal magazines in Europe, like all the European artists that I loved growing up in heavy metal magazines. And even the story is written that way, because it's about Thor just kicking the crap out of Gore through different times. Now, do all three of the different Thors meet? Well, you can keep reading the book to find out. Now, let's keep going through here, because we got to talk about different arcs. We do have a fill-in. This isn't really a fill-in issue. I really like this issue, because in this issue, he reunites with Jane Foster, and he finds out that Jane Foster has cancer. And she just found out, just about a month before he sees her. And he's like, that's not fair. You're such a big part of my life. How could this happen? How could I not know? So I love that. I love their relationship. And then we get to probably what is the biggest arc that sets up everything else to the end of Jason Aaron's run. And that is the return of Malekith the Accursed, who is the Dark Elf. He's appeared numerous times in Thor. Probably my favorite one being Walter Simonson's run. But in this, he is scheming. Him and his Dark Elves are coming together to destroy not just Asgard, but he has bigger plans. He sees the bigger picture. Now, I love this because it reminds me of Lord of the Rings, but Thor forms his own League of Realms. So he has an elf, a dwarf, a giant, a troll, a dark elf, and together they go out and fight. This is the Ron Garney artwork, by the way. And together they go out and fight the forces of Malekith. Now, he gets away, and like I said, all of this is just starting to scheme. There's Rosalind Solomon, who plays a bigger part in this run of Thor, showing off some more of this artwork. Now, one thing that is not stated to be collected in here, and I'm glad that they did it, is just this little part of Original Sin number 7. And I'll talk about the importance of that. Without going into spoilers, I'm just going to talk about why something happens. And in this particular issue, the whole story revolves around the death of the Watcher, Uatu. Somebody killed him. And somebody else takes over the role of the Watcher. And they whisper something into Thor's ear. in this. So I'm glad that they captured this in here. And when that is whispered in his ear, something happens that leads directly into issue 25 of God of Thunder. And for some reason after that, he can no longer wield Mjolnir. He can't pick up the hammer. We don't know what was whispered. We don't know exactly what happened. And everything gets resolved later, and you find out everything much later. So one thing I didn't talk about before we talk about the next arc right here. It's not that big of a spoiler because I talked about him not being able to pick up Mjolnir, but that's one of the ramifications of what's happened. Some of the covers are collected on the opposite side of the standard edition cover. So before we look at this part of Thor, this does collect Thor, God of Thunder 1 through 25, so that wraps up the Ezad Ribic part of Thor, or Jason Aaron's run. And then we have Thor, adjectiveless Thor, 1 through 8. That happens after Original Sin. So this is the next part right here. We also have Thor Annual number 1 from this era. We have Thor's, the miniseries, which, like I said, that's the miniseries that has not previously been collected in oversized format. For the first time, it's being collected here, and that takes place during the Battle World or Secret Wars from the 2015 Secret Wars. And then Mighty Thor 1 through 12, which takes place after Secret Wars. And it's all mapped great in here. I love the way that this is mapped. Like I said, including that issue of Original Sin, you'll see where Thor's is mapped here. But now we have a new era of Thor. Like I mentioned, Odin's son cannot pick up Mjolnir. So somebody else now has to pick it up. I'm not going to reveal who that person is. But by the end of issue 1, we found out that it's a female. Now, that's not the first time it's happened, right? Like we've had, oh my gosh, what was her name during Dan Jurgens' run on Thor? Was it She-Thor? Or Thor Girl? Thor Girl, that was it. And we've had other characters pick up Mjolnir before. But this is the first time he himself has not been able to pick it up, and somebody now has that power. And like I said, everything has answers. You'll find out by reading the book how exactly all this happened. I'm not going to reveal who this character is because there are a lot of possibilities. Remember that girl that I said they introduced? Rosalind Solomon? You're going to be asking yourself, who is it? Is it Broomhilda? Is it Thor's mother? Is it Sif? Is it Carnella? Like, all these characters, Enchantress. But the identity isn't important at first, because what's important is that, like I said, Malekith is now gathering forces with all these people. Some of them are new. Some of them are characters you've seen before. The Roxxon Corporation gets involved here. He is building for something that is called the War of the Realms. And that doesn't happen until Volume 2 of this omnibus. So everything you're reading here leads into that big event. And it's all because of this guy right here. Now, he's not alone doing that, like I said, because he branches out. He decides to reach out to the other realms because once and for all, he wants to destroy Asgard and take over Midgard, which is Earth. Now, there is something else. Oh, yeah, could it be one of King Thor's granddaughters that could be the new Thor? Or there's another character that they introduced that they retcon as Thor's sister, and you can find out by reading this. Actually, that's in the pages of Original Sin, but they do talk about it here. Now, this is the Secret Wars, Thor's, and this actually, I feel like it was like the Thor Corp, the return of that 90s series. But this all takes place in like a pocket universe. So the things that you're going to be reading about in here do affect the overall story, but they can be standalone, which I'm sure what is the reason why it wasn't collected in this particular oversized hardcovers. But I'm glad that it's in here, because if it's stored by Jason Aaron, then I want to read it. The only thing I'm upset about that's not in here that I wish I had included, it was the 10th Circle, the Loki Thor story. That is in the Loki Agent of Asgard complete collection, but I wish I had seen it in oversized format. And I love Hal Ewing, and he co-wrote that. But let's go back to this. Look at this beautiful freaking artwork in oversized format by Russell Dauterman. Yeah, the guy, not to sell him short, but they found him online. And I remember when I saw him, it was a picture of the 1992 X-Men cartoon characters. And that's how they found him. And I thought, oh, they found a guy on DeviantArt and he's going to be an ongoing artist. Of course, he had little things before this, but man, he just immediately became one of my favorite artists. I love this scene right here with Loki. Long before the Loki show, it's all the Loki variants. And don't let it fool you, Loki plays a minimal part in most of this. Like, this big chunk of story doesn't feature a lot of Loki. Like, he barely gets mentioned. Because right now, during that time, you know, he was in his own series with the Young Avengers and doing his own thing. There's the Femme Loki. Let's keep going through here. I always like to see the return of obscure characters like this character here from Grant Morrison's Marvel Boy. What was her name? The Dominatrix or the Exterminatrix? And just showcasing some more of the artwork. Now, this book retails for $125, and it has 1,216 pages. So we talked about what's collected in here, talked a little bit about those stories without going into deep spoilers. I think with the next book, whenever they announce the second omnibus, if and when it comes, I will have to talk about some spoilers. But let's look at the extras, because we do have a big chunk of extras here. Glad that they are collecting the Afterwards by Jason Aaron, because you get like a little bit of an inside look as to what his ideas were. This is the cover that they use for the standard edition, except it's like in a small framed format. The Azad Ribic sketchbook. Like I said, there's a big chunk of extras. I'm glad that they're all in here. Character designs. And a lot of this is borrowed for, of course, the Love and Thunder movie. I'm not sure, you know, if Gorr's going to be exactly the same as he is in this as he will be in Love and Thunder, but at least they're borrowing heavily from this, as you saw from earlier from that Azad Ribic picture. This is artwork right there by Butch Kais. And this also, believe it or not, is the introduction of Null, the King in Black. He does appear in a little cameo early on. There's the character designs right here by Russell Dodderman. That's a Ron Garney piece. And I will be passing up on some spoilers just in case any of the pictures show spoilers. I love looking at this. That's a beautiful piece. Man, they went through so many ideas. The only unchanged cover was this one. I remember announcing the original covers. People were disappointed. They reached out to me to reach out to Marvel, so they decided to change them, make one Russell Dodderman, make one Azad Ribic. And then people were still complaining, like, that's not the right Azad Ribic picture. And I'm like, you know, I think I need to step away from this and just let Marvel decide, you know, what covers they're going to do. Like, you can only complain so much before somebody just stops listening to you. These are all the variant covers. And like I said, I will stay or pass up or edit out the spoiler ones. But for the most part, I think they're pretty non-spoilerish. This was one of the variant covers. That's the one that I wanted. And it got passed up. And I get it. Russell Dodderman is the artist, so why not have him do one of the variants? That is a gorgeous piece by Azad Ribic. It's the ant size cover. What? Yes, Throg. These are all done by Del Keown. Famous for his run on Incredible Hulk and, of course, his image title Pit. Gotta skip a few of these now. These are design variants. Greg Hildebrand. I really thought this was Brian Hitch at first, but it's Mike Perkins. These are famous Thor fights won by Adam Kubert there. Beta Ray Bill. Mike Deodato. Okay, let's look at this binding. So I've had the book for about a month, and it is a little tight binding. I've opened it up a total of 2 times, and I've been reading it for about a month. So it does get looser. So don't freak out if you don't have much of an eye at first. As far as the spread pages, here's one. Well, this is one towards the middle. But to kind of give you an idea, let's actually look at one further down because I just love this page. You can see that it's sewn binding, right? Still, because of the way that the book is bound. A little bit of a gutter curve right there. So you are going to have to spread it out like this to see all the artwork. And that kind of sucks, but it happens from time to time. So you are going to, what I'm trying to get at is you are going to get some art loss right there in the middle. Let's look at it towards the beginning. There's not many examples I can use towards the beginning, though. Guess we could always come back to this one. As you can see, a little bit of a gutter curve right there. The way that the book folds over. And then, I think in the back they're just covers, though. Well, we can look at this again. Yeah, right there you can't even if you're holding it down, you can't really see the right side of Thor's face there. But now let's compare the art to the oversized hardcover. So let's just pick something from the first issue. All right, so here we have the oversized hardcover, volume 1. My goodness, this one, I want to say came out about 6 years ago. And then this is the omnibus here. As far as the, I mean, obviously they're on opposite sides, but colors and everything look just as good here as they do here. And the paper, of course, being different. This was printed 6 years ago. This is the iMac printer, so it is thinner than the paper here. But I did want to compare some of the art. Just wanted to get to this page because I've always loved that pose of Gore just teasing Thor. But yeah, it looks like maybe the colors are just a little bit darker in the oversized hardcover, but that also could be due to the paper. Let's compare it to the Mighty Thor hardcover, which, by the way, these weren't any better when it comes to gutter loss. If you're thinking, oh, I'll just get the oversized hardcover. No. Here, let's compare it to one of the pages here. All right, I wanted to compare these pages here because this has white on it. This is from issue number 8 of the Mighty Thor. You can see a little bit of the art coming in from the opposite page, but also here. Not as bad here, though, because the paper, it's a little bit thicker. Actually, I want to say it's just a little bit thicker by the time you get to these oversized hardcovers, because these were published probably about 3 or 4 years ago. But yeah, as far as the colors, they look identical. Actually, they look a little more vibrant here than they do in the oversized hardcover. Let's just look at a couple more pages here. And also because I love showing off the artwork. So just one more page. Again, just showcasing what the whites look like. And I always like to remind people that I do have my lights pointing from both directions at the books. So I think most people don't read them that bright. But that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this book, don't forget to check out our sponsors. CheapGraphicNovels.com, your online home for graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They have excellent shipping and prompt and helpful service. Check out their bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. And don't forget that CGN also takes pre-orders. That way you don't miss out on the hottest releases. And they are currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, after receiving your order confirmation email, reply back to that email and let them know Near Mint Condition sent you their way. They will then apply a free shipping promotional credit to your next order in the US. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount, quality shipping, and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. If you live in Europe and are interested in pre-ordering or purchasing Omnis, then you should definitely check out Walt's Comic Shop in Berlin, Germany. They have the cheapest pre-order prices for Marvel and DC big books within the EU. Flat shipping of €9.90 for EU countries, extremely careful and sturdy packaging, emails are answered within 24 hours, and they have a superb selection of new releases and out-of-print books on their website. Just head over to waltzcomicshop.com for more great deals and rare titles, and for a limited time, you can use the code NEARMINTCONDITION, all one word, at the checkout for free shipping to all EU countries with your first order. Walt's Comic Shop, your reliable source for omnis and premium collected editions in Europe. And that was the content, the page count, and build of this omnibus. Let me know in the comments down below if this was the book you've been waiting for, which cover you're going to get it. Have you ever read any of Jason Aaron's Thor, or if this is your first time going into it because you've been waiting for the omnibus format. Again, this was the Uncanny Omar. If you have any more questions, leave your questions down below. Don't forget to smash that like button, subscribe if you haven't subscribed yet. We are on Patreon and Spreadshop, amazing ways to support the channel if you can do so. Thank you so much to our existing patrons. Could not be making videos like this without you all. And more importantly, everyone, stay healthy and safe out there. Much love.